I used to hate doing art. Like, I would do it, but the process was just so stressful and so difficult for me to do that I didn't end up doing very much art. So that's what today's video is going to be about, and how I have come out of that and am really loving art now and finding it fun. So, first of all, I want to talk about this book I have, which I got at a thrift store, and as you saw, I was showing the first page, and something I love about the thrift store is, especially with books, I'm discovering, is lots of times there's little notes from the previous owners of to their loved ones, as it was a gift, or from their loved ones, and I just find it really cute and fun. So I was looking through this book for inspiration, and I found this picture, which I thought would be great. I just really thought I'd love to draw or paint these rocks. I just thought those rocks just really inspired me. And I really wanted to paint them. And I started with a pink underpainting, which I didn't put a lot of thought into that. I usually, with my underpaintings, I just like, I don't know, oftentimes a bright light color seems to do the best. And so that's what I did. I just did a little pink background because I knew I was going to be working in like grays and blues and stuff, and so I thought it would make it a little bit warmer underneath. So, let's get into the main part of today's video, which is I hated making art before, even though it was something, like, I don't think a lot of my family members or friends necessarily knew this about me, but I would make art, and I was, probably from the age of like 10 is when I really started drawing, specifically to draw, and often, and most of the time, I just, like, when I'd sit down to make a finished art piece or something like that, when I'd be really trying, I just really didn't usually find the process fun or enjoy it. In fact, it was usually very stressful, and it was like that for years, even until recently. So when I started taking my art more seriously, or trying to seriously enjoy it, or get better at it, was about last year sometime, I think. Last year? It might have been more than that. I think it was just last year. Last fall, so it's been pretty much exactly a year, I think. But up until that point, I really found art stressful, even though it was something I did and I supposedly liked. Like, there was moments where I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the process, but still most of the time I would get stressed by it, and I would not enjoy what I was making, and it was just, I don't know, it was just a struggle, and it's kind of sad looking back on it now, because it didn't have to be, I don't think. I mean, it obviously, whatever. It's just part of my art journey or whatever, but so how how have I come from finding art stressful and disliking the process to now liking the process? Well, first of all, when I started making art, it was not for me. It was sort of to sort of impress people. It was a way to be seen, I guess, by people in my life at the time that weren't, well, people. I don't want to get into that. That's almost a story for another day, but it wasn't for me. It was for other people. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a healthy, in my view, reason to do art. But it is what it is. But because of that, I didn't have the drive to enjoy the process. I had the drive to make something that someone else would like, or that someone else would find value in. And that made for a very stressful art practice. And since then, now that I have started taking my art more seriously and like seriously trying to find it enjoyable and seriously trying to improve it, I've done this in several ways. By, first of all, there was a couple accidental ways. One, I started going to an art group that just proved to be so wonderful for me. If you're not around other artists that are very supportive and just like having fun, I really suggest you try to find some other artists that are consistently making art and just great people. So anyway, I found a group that was very supportive and just making art for the fun of it. And that, going to that weekly has really like improved my art by leaps and bounds and made it such an enjoyable process. Like, the day that my art group meets is like my favorite day of the week now. So that has been huge. But the other thing is I started watching YouTubers on YouTube, art YouTubers, that had a way different style of art than me. And at first I didn't really I had these sort of internal biases, maybe against their style of art or how they were doing it. That was a me problem, not a them problem. But anyway, eventually I came to really love how they made their art and how their art looked. And so one of the main artists that I watch and follow is Sandy Hester on YouTube, and I absolutely love the way she makes her art, how she paints, how just her whole energy about art and making art. And it really clicked with me how to have fun with my art, because she's just so full of life. She just loves painting, and she just slaps paint. Like, she just slaps paint on canvases so fast. Or, to me, someone who used to just like be so I want to say meticulous, but that's almost too positive of a word for it, because looking at it now, it wasn't positive for my art, but just a little way too careful and way too precious with my art. And now seeing Sandy Hester and how she just like goes so quick and like makes these like broad, thick lines and strokes, it really inspired me to do the same, especially with my acrylic paintings. And I've discovered, and I'm still discovering, that I absolutely love this way of painting, which you see that I'm doing in this video and with this painting here. It's just so freeing. And I'm going to take a moment to talk about a way that I've really discovered I like painting skies. This is only the second sky I've done like this, but I've realized that I really like smearing the paint on the sky with my hands and with my fingers. It feels so playful, so childlike. It feels like, I don't know, it almost feels like I'm not supposed to do it, you know? Like, it's so messy, but I love it so much. You get to feel the paint, like actually feel the paint. And I also think, like, in a world that's like, we're seeing so much of this like AI art and that whole annoying stuff, just problematic, whatever. You can't get any more real and more like tactile or whatever than literally smearing your fingerprints into a painting. Like, there's nothing more human than that, you know? Or more, it's like putting your signature all over it. I don't know. I really enjoy it. And even though it's kind of a weird way to do it, because definitely as I'm like putting paint on with my fingers, I'm like, I didn't really like how that looked, but I like how this looks, and then have to go over it a bunch. But that's the same with any way of, like, even with a paintbrush using that. But as you can see, I still have some frustrated moments with smearing it on with my fingers, but I just end up really liking the movement in the sky from this technique, and I don't know, I love it. And I love it. Another reason why I love painting the sky with my fingers is I've had these feelings in the past of like, I'm not a real artist, or like, I'm sure those, some of you who are watching might have had that feeling at some point, maybe not even with art, but other things. Like, I'm not a real artist, I'm not a real writer, I'm not blah, 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 or that kind of sentiment. And doing it like this, like smearing paint on the page with your hands and getting so messy that your hands are just covered in paint, there's no way to deny to yourself. Like, it makes it almost impossible to say to yourself that you're not an artist, because you're literally covered in paint. So it's a really great way to combat that if you're feeling those feelings, in my opinion. I'd suggest, if you're having trouble right now, like thinking that you don't feel like a real artist, which is obviously not true, because you are. If you paint, if you draw, if you do any sort of art form, you're an artist. You're a real artist. But if you're having those feelings, like, my suggestion is do some finger painting. Because it just makes it, I don't know, it just makes it impossible to deny to yourself that you're an artist. And yeah. Anyway, so this is another way that I've found joy in my art practice, is allowing myself to be more childlike and allowing myself to just do what feels right in the moment, and really giving myself permission to have fun with the process rather than trying to make something perfect. And I find that I like my art too way more when I've enjoyed the process. Like, I'm way more happy with this painting than some of the other paintings that have taken me like 10 times as long to make, or ones that I've been like way more careful making. It's, I don't know, I find it really interesting. And you may have also seen in this painting that I'm not very careful with what colors go where. Like, there's a general, like, oh, I want this to be lighter, I want this to be darker, I want this color here, but when I'm, like, picking up paint from my palette and smearing it on the paper, there's little bits of other paint. Sometimes there's a large amount, but it's okay. I don't mind. I actually want that because that adds so much, in my opinion, to the movement and the colors, because that's something I used to do a lot before too. I used to just like pick one color. I'm like, okay, this is this color. Like, a rock is gray, and so I would mix a gray and then paint all the rocks that gray. And having to reframe your mind to remember, oh yeah, rocks that technically are maybe gray, but there's so many other colors within there. There's shadows, there's different textures, there's like cool colors and warm tones, and just a whole mix of things that, I don't know, it makes more sense to me to just messily, like, leave my paintbrush dirty from a previous color and go in with a new color, and then you have flecks of the old color, and sometimes it leads to instances where you're like, oh, this is not how I wanted it, but then you just go over it again. That's the beauty of acrylic paint. It's really wonderful. And you can really see this in the sky as well, how I just had like added different colors. I wanted it a lighter gray than the like, sort of a lighter gray than the rocks, right? But I wanted lots of colors because the sky is alive. Like, the sky, if you look at the sky at any given time, it's going to be different. It's going to have different colors. It's going to have different shadows. Unless it's just like completely blue. And even then, you can still imagine different colors or whatever with it. And see different colors. So, yeah, I really liked that. And, yeah. So, back to the idea of having fun with art. I'd like to just remind people to don't be afraid to use tools. That's another thing that I sort of made up these rules for myself in art before. That, like, if I wasn't following these certain rules, my art wasn't being, like, it wasn't correct. Which is silly, because there's no correct way to make art. There's so many ways. There's so many materials. Like, there's people that use garbage to make beautiful art. Like there's this lady I see that collects straws. I've seen her on I can't remember if it was YouTube or TikTok or something, but she collects old straws and she cuts them out and she forms them into like these beautiful flower earrings, and you would never know that they were straws. Like, people literally use trash to make beautiful art, so don't deny yourself a tool or a process or anything like that because you think it's not how it's done, because art is literally made with anything. It's made whenever, it's made wherever, it's made by whoever. It's just, don't let that hold you back. And references are huge. I used to deny myself references because I thought that, again, it was another stupid rule that I made up for myself, that like, oh, I can't use references because that's cheating, or that's not, like, for some reason I had it in my head that wasn't, it was like copying like photographs, even though that's not, like, I guess I put like a lesser value on my art that was done with a reference, which is silly, because just because you're using a photo reference doesn't mean that you're not putting in all the effort still to make a beautiful artwork. But anyway, using references has helped my art tremendously. Like, it just, don't deny yourself that, and don't deny yourself any other tool that you may need for art, that because you think it's like cheating or whatever. And another thing is that's helped me really enjoy the art process, or make it feel like all my art, like every step of the way, has been taking my own photographs. I know some people, like, for instance, I watched a video with Sandy Hester today, and she was saying that photo references for her, she doesn't like painting from them as much. But for me, I love painting from photo references. And what I've learned is I actually really love taking photography of things and then using it as a reference for myself. And so I have all these pictures in my phone of flowers I see, and trees, and landscapes, and animals, if I can get close enough to them. And whenever I'm doing art and I don't know what to do, I just look through my photo gallery on my phone, and I'll go, oh, I want to paint this flower, or this landscape that I took a picture of while I was on a hike, or maybe I want to draw this, like a portrait of my boyfriend and I, or my niece, or, something like that. So, yeah, that's partly where I get inspiration from as well. Because before, I used to think that I needed an idea, I needed a concept for, like, some wild, because I used to do more, like, surrealism kind of illustrations. And although I still like those, I kind of relied on, like, trying to come up with an idea for a strange sort of scene, and they just don't always come to me. And it's kind of wasted time if you're just waiting for the perfect idea to fall in your mind so that you can do a painting. Whereas now I've found that my inspiration is a lot more nature and animals and the things around me that I see and can take photos of and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't just wait for an idea to come. Either take steps to form an idea, like actually sit down and brainstorm them, or look at other people's art to get inspiration, look at your photographs, look at books of like maybe photography or other art or children's books. And yeah, I hope this made sense. I think it was a little all over the place, but I just hope it helps someone come to a similar place as me in coming from struggling with enjoying your art practice and then potentially really enjoying it. I really find being looser with my art has made it 100 times more enjoyable for me, and I like the outcome more as well. So, and that doesn't mean I don't do artwork that's like sometimes tighter or like, more cartoony or specific, but I also just love painting like this, and I want to do more because I haven't done it a ton yet, but I really, really love it. And anyway, this is my finished painting, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it took me like maybe 40 minutes to do total. It's like this video was all real time of the whole process, and I cut out like a tiny little bit. So yeah, it was really fast and really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good day, and thank you for watching, and please subscribe and comment. Bye. Also, if you wouldn't mind to like this video. That didn't sound right. Okay, anyway. Bye!